Hello, my name is James McEwen, and I am a board member with the Louisville Astronomical Society. I am also our Astronomical League coordinator, and part of my role there that I'm trying to do is to help not only myself in my planning of my nights for observation and astrophotography, but also to share this information and help others in their hunt of what am I to look at in the sky with my new telescope, or what am I going to do tonight. So in the way that I'm looking at it, I've got a tool called Stellarium. It's a free download. I highly encourage everybody to go ahead and Google it, download the software, and start looking into how to use it. It's a great tool for planning a night of photography, for finding objects in the night sky, and planning just what you're going to be doing, your time schedules. So what I'm putting together is sort of an astronomical scavenger hunt. Today, it's March the 26th of 2019. I've got our time set at 9 p.m. So the sun is supposed to be setting 8 o'clock tonight, roughly. By 9 p.m. we should have fairly dark skies. So if you are away from the downtown area, if you're further out where you have nice dark skies, then this should be a good challenge for you this evening or the next few days. Most of the objects in this list are going to be Messier objects. The Messier object list is a list of items put together by French astronomer Charles Messier. He lived in the 1700s, so most of his work mid to late 1700s, early 1800s. He has a list of 110 objects that he put together of things that were not comets. The thing to do at this time period was to be someone who found a comet and get your name on a comet. In doing so, he needed to know all the different items that were not comets, that were blurry, faint fuzzies in the sky, things that would lead you to believe they saw a comet when they were actually not. So he wanted to chart the sky of these things and get them on a permanent list to say, hey, these things, don't worry about them, I've seen this before. So he's provided this wonderful list of objects for us to find in the sky. A lot of these things on this list are going to be clusters, star clusters. A star cluster is simply that. It's a cluster of stars relatively close together. Makes some, really nice views to look at through a telescope. The setup on the telescope that I will be using for most of this and throughout my viewing will be an Orion XT8 Dobsonian telescope. I will be using my 40mm eyepiece, which has a 43-degree field of view, not too wide. You can also have approximately the same field of view with a 32mm, that's a 52. So when I'm switching in between on my different views, going from the wide out view of the sky into the ocular view, that's approximately what you should expect given what you have. It would be similar to using, a 10-inch f4 telescope, or using, say, a 5-inch Celestron that has roughly the same focal length to start with. So let me get started here. I'm going to leave the time set on the clock. Down here you'll see I'm set at 2100 hours. I'll leave that there just so it's static as I'm going through. Now I'm looking tonight, my astrophotography target tonight is going to be on the opposite side looking east. I'm really wanting to work on what's over here going in Markarian's chain. So they're pretty low on the horizon right now, but I figure by 10 o'clock I'll start doing my photography. So when I'm planning my night, about 8 o'clock I'll be getting things set up, getting everything ready to go. I'll get my telescope lined in with the with Polaris. And once I do that, once I'm done, then I'm going to shift gears, waiting for this to climb high enough in order to do photography. And I'll start my scavenger hunt of my objects that I found. If I can hit these all pretty well, knowing where they're located, then given an hour or two time, I might be able to hit about 50 different objects in the night sky. So my plan is going to be to start on the western side and catch objects as they set or before they set too low below tree lines around me, and then going more towards the south and then back up higher in the sky, climbing through the east of the sky eastward in order to hit as many different objects as I can. Some of these I might not be able to see from my home because of the tree line, neighbors' houses, things like that. Others I'll hit okay, so we'll see what I can do. So if you've got a good open field or something, a lot of these you should be able to hit before they start setting too low. But you'll have to definitely start as early as possible to get these in view, but balancing out between the twilight time and any sunlight you have coming over the horizon. So I'm first going to start with one of our lower objects directly west, and that will be the double cluster. So the double cluster is to what I would call always the tail end of Cassiopea, because I'm used to watching it in the east, so this is the tail of Cassiopea as it tucks down. Andromeda down here is going to be too low, but the double cluster might still be in view before it sets. Go in with the eyepiece. It's a beautiful cluster of stars to look at. You'll see this, you'll see it prominently with these, two packed clusters that are together with two separate cores. One core is a little bit closer together than the other, but it's a good object to look at, and it's pretty easy to find. So you find that by getting your tail end star and Cassiopea, and at this time pretty much heading horizontal across the sky, you'll find the double cluster. It's easy to spot with a pair of binoculars, a 9x50 finder scope. You can find it pretty easy, and then go in with your main eyepiece and find that one. That one's listed as C14. It's not actually on the Messier list, but it's a Caldwell object. Nice and easy to find. Heading over horizontally more towards your south. First Messier object in the list is M34. So you have our Perseus constellation, and heading south from it is M34 as the spiral cluster. It might be a little bit hard to see depending on how far south it is, how far falling west it is into the sky. Next up on the list is M45, the Pleiades cluster. It's one of my favorite objects to look at, especially throughout the fall and winter. It's a beautiful, brilliant blue stars. Photography can easily render the nebula next to it, or that's spread amongst it. But it's a really beautiful cluster to look at. And these four stars right here actually have golden tones to it. So while the main stars, also called the Seven Sisters, the main stars have the bright blue, you get a little bit of a gold tone here to offset that. Pulling back and looking just a little bit to the west, down to the west, you have Mars. Mars will be passing us out of view pretty soon, but you can take time to get a nice little view of Mars briefly. From here, I'm going to go towards the south, moving over towards Orion. A nice easy object to find is going to be the Great Orion Nebula, listed as M42. South of the Orion Nebula, as part of it, is also M43, another portion of the nebula. These two are pretty easy to see with just about any telescope. Now, if you go a little bit further west, you have the Running Man Nebula. You'll see the shape of arms. These are the legs, and it looks like a running man. But you can faintly see this one as well in most telescopes. That one is an NGC list of 1977. Didn't write that one down. I scribbled it really quick on my list of what to check off. Coming back here, you can move up, and if you have dark enough skies, looking at Alnitak, and excuse me if I butcher any names, you have the Flaming Nebula, or the Flame Nebula, and you have the Horsehead Nebula. These generally require some pretty dark skies to see. Great photography subjects, in town or out of town, but for visuals, these are pretty dark and hard to see. I think I can just barely make it out from my side of town. Also, next up on the list in Orion is M78. This is not an easy one to see. This is a dark reflection nebula. You can see the stars associated with it, and if you have the right skies, you might be able to see it. I've attempted to do photography on it, and even with photography, it's pretty hard for me to gather this one here in town. From here, I'm going to hop over and down to Canis Major. So, identify where Sirius is. Coming down a little bit and to the southwest or southeast is M41. We'll zoom in for this cluster. Going across to the east, we have M93, just north of the Puppis constellation. I think that's about as far south and low on the horizon that I'm going to be able to go, or I'll be able to see myself. Now, heading a little bit towards the north, heading up, we have a group of clusters that are part of the Monoceros cluster. Looking below the legs, so you have our lower star. Right in here, we have a grouping of clusters to look at. M47, M46, a couple other clusters here. So let me go in here. So back to M47. There you go, M47 and M46. Definitely a fainter cluster than M47, but they're right next to each other. If I zoom in this way, you'll see the two right next to each other. And drifting over this way, try to locate this one again. I'm looking for M50. I misplaced it already. Now let me go up on the back side of the legs. Towards the tail end is M48. M50 has to be down here where I wrote my notes. So 47, 8, horse helmet. I seem to have lost a star cluster. I'll move on. Let me see, F3. I can find it. M50. There we go. So the heart-shaped cluster. So between the two lower stars for the legs, that's where I was looking at. If we go in, we have a nice tight cluster here. Now, the next one, up towards the head, you have a cluster known as the Rosette Nebula, but there is also a cluster associated with it. So here we have our rosette, and right in the center we have a small cluster of stars. Next, I'm going to hop back over to Gemini, going back over to the west, and in Gemini we have M35. So we have Pollux and Castor. We have the arms coming across, following down the legs of Castor down towards his right foot. We have M35. Walking across from his legs, going over to Rugia, probably botched that name. First cluster is M37. So we have our two stars here. Looking off to the side here to the south, is M37. We then hop across, we have M36. We have M38. And while there are a few other things in here, Flaming Star Nebula is one that you can attempt to see. It's a more difficult subject. The bright star often makes it hard to actually see your nebula. Even for photography, I've worked on this one and I need to spend a lot more time on it to get more data on the nebula compared to the star itself. But that does it for the Messier objects right here. At this point, I'm going to hop over to Cancer. So if we take out from our night sky, go back out. Okay, we're looking at Orion. So we have Arugula, we have Gemini, we have Orion. Okay, so we're coming over this way towards the east. Right here, we have Cancer. Two stars close together, Acellus Borealis and Acellus Australis. Between these two lies the Beehive cluster, M44. Going back, now following these two stars, coming straight down a little bit off to the side here, you have the shape of the legs. And we have M67. Now it's taken me 20 minutes to record this video, so you can see how long it's going to take to hop through and find these as well. So we would be looking about 20 minutes further into our time. Let me adjust our skies accordingly. Go 30 minutes later. So we're looking now about 9:30 on the clock. Okay. So now about 9:30. We're looking now towards Leo. Leo will have risen high enough where you can get some good views of our subjects in Leo. Leo is looking into our region where galaxies abound, and this is galaxy season right now. Great time for photography for galaxies, great time for seeing those truly faint fuzzies that are really miraculous to see. We are looking far outside of the Milky Way. Well, a lot of the star clusters I've pointed out so far, a lot of those are within our galaxy. So for the most part, though, when we're looking at these, now we're going to be looking at galaxies as we go through this next stage here. Easy to find and easy to view is going to be the Leo triplet. Now, if you find the first star on the back is Zosma, looking down to Cherton. Then when you come in closer, such as with your finder, using your finder scope, you're going to find these three stars right here. Turn this off so you don't see the. So 1, 2, and 3. You come down to this one here and then move across, move south. Perpendicular, you will find a cluster of 3 faint fuzzies. This is the Leo triplet. With designations of M66, M65, there are 2 of the brighter galaxies. Those are definitely brighter. And then you will see a fainter smudge called the Hamburger Galaxy. Is not listed for Messier, but this one is definitely, definitely visible. I'm able to see that again, but it's definitely a fainter object to see. These are much brighter, but they're still faint smudges. Not going to see these with the moon out. That's why tonight's going to be a good night. Moon doesn't rise until near 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, coming across in the same line, see we've got Zosma and Cherton. You'll want to look for this star here. Okay. We'll have Leo's star here as well. You'll find these 3 stars here making a triangle, and come center to that triangle, and you'll have M95. It is also a galaxy. It is also pretty faint. Along with M95, you have M96. Two nice faint galaxies right there. Let me use my find feature, M105. Yes, also with that, it's M105. Next to that we have another faint galaxy. So there's another triplet of little smudges that you should see. See which my list is. Right, so we have M105 NGC 3384 and 3389. That'll be all in one view together. If you angle your eye off to the side, let your peripheral vision take a look, you might actually be able to see those a little bit better. Now at this point, we're going to leave Leo and head over to the Big Dipper. If you can't see these yet, if Leo's not high enough in the sky for you or to get a good view, because these are still looking pretty low, about 40 degrees by 9:30. If these are still low, then head over to Ursa Major first. Ursa Major is our Big Dipper. Looking high in the sky, we have Bode's Nebula, M81 and M82, the Cigar Galaxy. Now you can find those if you can track from Fod to Dube and across. You can find that. Now when I'm looking at this, there's a hop, skip, and a jump pattern that you'll go through. Going from Dube, you'll follow these bright stars going across, and eventually you'll get over here. So you just need a hop from Dube. There's this bright star here, this bright star here, and coming across, you have this one here, and then looking between these, you'll find Bode's Nebula. If I switch my view here to a finder scope, here's the 9x50 finder scope. Then you'll see these here. So I'm moving here, finder scope. This is a right angle finder scope. So here's Dube. Going across, watching your stars. You should see these, and they'll show up faintly in your finder scope. Going back over .352. Try to get on the right finder, right view. These will have a nice view. They'll actually show up pretty easily. Bode's Nebula is a decently bright galaxy to actually look at. And next to it is also the Cigar Galaxy. Coming back out and heading south. So here is the ladle portion. Here is our handle. So coming down along these two, Mizar, where we have our double star, and we have Alcade. If you make a triangle of the three, you'll find the Pinwheel Galaxy, M101. It's a faint, but it still is pretty visible. It's nicely visible. Coming across and then up a little bit, we'll have the Whirlpool Galaxy. This is not a Messier, but it's still a good shot. Give that one a try to look at. Hopping across, you'll have this little asterism of 4 stars together. And we have the Sunflower Galaxy, M63. Coming up here, we have M94, C21, and M106. So going to zoom in on M94. Really faint, small smudge. I think C21 is going to not really be visible, but M106 should be visible as well. Nice. Again, you're looking for faint smudges when you're looking for these. So 81, 82, 86, 1. Pinwheels 101, 51. Make sure I've covered my list. 63, 94, and 106. Coming off to the side, Whale Galaxy, not what I was going for. Okay, so coming down and away from here, we've got Boots rising from the side, or rising from the east. These you might have to revisit a little bit later, but rising over, they were talking only 20 degrees off the horizon at 9:30. But down here you have M3. It's a globular cluster, so this will be tight packed compared to the other open clusters. We have M53, another globular cluster. And then right in the middle here is M64, the Black Eye Galaxy. Another soft smudge. So at this point, about 25 degrees over the horizon, we're looking at this one region between Virgo, Coma Berenices, and looking past the tail of Leo. This region here is filled. It's absolutely filled with galaxies. I'm going to advance forward to 10 o'clock. We will be roughly at 30 degrees above the horizon. We come in here, we are going to find many galaxies. This region is filled with them. Again, my subject for photography here is going to be Markarian's chain. And within here there are quite a few Messier objects. So the first one on my list is M49, faint smudge of a galaxy. And you'll hop around these to find more and more. M61 off to its south, so off to the side horizontally at this time is M61. Quite a few different galaxies. I'm going to highlight them as you're looking in here. And so as you'll hop around, you'll be looking for anything that's a faint smudge and try to look at which is each one. So here is M49 again. Look over here, M61. Coming across from M49 is M60. In the same field of view on M60, you also have M49 or M59, which is going to be north, and you hop slowly north through these. M58, M89. Okay, so 58's here, 89 centered here, M90. This is actually visually going to be to the left. With the telescope, with the Newtonian, it's going to be flipped. Okay. Hopping up to M87. M86, And this puts us right in Markarian's chain. When you're looking at this one, there will be a lot of galaxies to look at. M84, 86, have the eyes. As you're hopping through, you'll see even off to the side here is another faint galaxy. That's where M88 is. M91. So you can hop through these galaxies here. And you'll see here, we found in M87 and we were hopping through this way out to this one here. If I go back this way, M86 is over here. We're actually heading north now, or heading north. We're heading west, going up. Continuing to head through, we have M99, the Pinwheel Nebula. It's a galaxy, but not to be mistaken with the Pinwheel Galaxy. M98. Notice you'll have this star, a brighter star off to the side. M100. M85. And I'm sure there are probably some others in here that I've missed on my list. And going up from that, have a globular cluster. This one's going to be faint, probably not going to be a good, too great of an object to look with this eyepiece. And again, part of what I'm trying to do is keep one eyepiece without changing. Make going through this list a lot faster. Now, at this point, if you've covered all of these objects, there are 50 different objects I've had on my list. And so it's taken me 40 minutes to talk through them. It'll probably take longer to hop through them than find them. But that'll work because a lot of these, especially in Markarian's chain, are a little bit further south. Apologies, I had to yawn. At this point, you'll have covered quite a few objects and we're looking further south. Okay, so if we go south down to Virgo, really to get this one in view, we're going to have to jump hours. So instead of talking 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, we're really going to need to be more towards 11 to 12 o'clock before some of these are going to be rising up high enough to see. I know that for my house, if it's not above 30 degrees, I'm not going to see it over my neighbors' houses or above the street lights that I have in my neighborhood, sadly. So there will be a second group of items to see looking a little bit later or looking a little bit further into the month of April when you can see these. But I think that'll cover it for now. So that gives you about 50 objects to look at for the next 2 nights with our clear sky forecast in Louisville and the surrounding areas. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. Bundle up because the temperatures are going to head down into the lower 30s or 20s. But it should give you a good target list to find. I hope this was helpful. Again, download Stellarium. You can plug in these numbers for all of these subjects and be able to find them and study where to look for them in the night sky. Have a good night. Clear skies.